Hello again and welcome to one of my tutorials. Let's just see. This is Lena Inverse from Slayers. This is her OVA outfit and I'm going to be focusing on the pauldrons. So obviously the first thing that you want to do when you're starting a project like this is research. And I did tons of research for Lena, but I also realized that what I was doing wrong was I was just trying to look on Google for pictures, and I realized what I could have been doing is just watching the movies themselves and getting screen caps. Now, if you don't know how to get screen caps, it's very simple. Every keyboard has a print screen button, and it's usually found in the upper right-hand section of your keyboard. Mine is under F11, and I press the FN button near the control button on the lower left corner of my keyboard to activate the print screen. Once you get pictures, you can start figuring out what kind of pattern you want. That's very important because it prevents you from wasting materials. So it's really simple. You can just take poster paper or 8 by 11 sheets of paper and tape them together, and then just trace out your pattern. Once you have a pattern that you're satisfied with, you can take those patterns to then trace onto your base material that you're going to use for your pauldrons. I use, as you can see here, tack board, which is a condensed cardboard, and it's a really nice material to use. It's very rigid and sturdy, and it's bendable, but it does have a grain, so you want to take a little piece of it and bend it both ways to see which way it bends best. Like here, it's very smooth when I bend it into the spherical cone shape, but if I bent it the other way, it would start flaking. And so you do want to make sure you buy enough of a material to test it and see what the properties are like before you go and mess around with it and then find out that it screws up later. Considering these are pauldrons, the first step that you'll want to do is get the base for your shoulder, and for that I used paper mache balloons. This process was a little tedious, and I'm going to think if there's a better way to go about this. I mean, I actually went to the dollar store and found these party hats that were circular shaped that I could have used later. But remember, lightness is key when it comes to prop armor, unless you're looking for more of a sturdiness here. I'm just looking for replication of the look and not necessarily wear, because I'm not going to be fighting this stuff, So lightness was key, and I thought paper mache would do the trick. So it's a little time consuming. Obviously paper mache takes a while. The one here is more creased than the other because I popped the balloon inside too soon before it was properly dried. So really give it plenty of time to fully dry and use plenty of layers to hold the shape. Here you can see I cut the balloon up and I'm starting to fit it to my shoulder. This might take a while, and it's very likely that you'll screw up, so you might just have to make another set of balloons. I would also recommend measuring yourself so that you can be more accurate with your pattern the first time, rather than having to just blow up a balloon and be like, this looks like it's the size for my shoulder, and then find out that it's way too big or way too small or whatever. After I was satisfied with my balloon, paper maches, and the pattern for the cardboard layout, I started taping it together and seeing what it would look like, and fitting it to my shoulder during every process and every step of the way. For example, I had a hard time because one of the pauldrons was supposed to have more of a hang to it, and the other one was supposed to stick straight out, so I had to adjust them, and it took a lot of adjusting and readjusting them before I got the way I wanted to look. Always have lots of reference pictures on hand so you can do that. Okay, I used duct tape and hot glue mainly as the attachments and the adhesives for this. After you get the basic shape cut out, you're going to start adding the thickness. I used foam for a lot of the detailing, and the one mistake I made here was covering that whole thing with duct tape. I really don't like the way it looked out, because when I was trying to put the paint over it, I had to keep covering it and covering it and covering it to try to get the texture of the duct tape out, and it just wouldn't come out well, and I didn't like the way it looked. So I would have maybe covered it with duct tape and then another layer of foam. But the foam definitely helped me get the thickness on there that I wanted. Remember, when you're adding extra thickness, that it might not fit the same, so you've got to account for that as well. The second problem I had was the attachments to the armor. Obviously, the armor is one size, and all the little baubles on the thing are going to have to be the same, or a good ratio to it as well. I originally wanted everything to light up, so I bought push-in lights, though those ended up being too big, so I had to take them off, which was a very tedious process involving a lot of very careful removal of hot glue, because there was a lot of hot glue that was used to attach those. But they ended up looking so big and preposterous that I just didn't like the look of it. They were just too huge and bulky for the armor. Plus, the fact that they were powered each by 4 AA batteries, it was just really, really heavy on one side. So I took those apart, and I just used the red part on the inside, and then I ended up covering the other part with gold foam, which I had painted instead. So it was a little bit of a trimmer look. Secondly, back to clays. I am a big fan of clays, and here I experimented more with Model Magic because I had used the Japanese, like, Daiso paper clays, and the more expensive American brand and Canadian brands of paper clays. I never actually bothered using Model Magic because I just didn't like the consistency and texture. But I found out that it actually does work well if you are patient with it and you give it time. It's not as easy to smooth as others, but it does its job, and especially for a job like this where you're not trying to get super ornate details, it's not terrible. It doesn't always attach well, so you have to be patient with it when at work. Basic structure down, basic detailing down. Obviously, with any paint project, you want to just do a base coat first, so I did black as paints. So yes, nail polish, definitely. If you want to use a acrylic paint as a base, like I did here, that's fine. But just because the original gems were made of like brown clay, and I didn't want the brown showing through. And this is the final work. I ended up buying different types of varnishes from the store and using that to give the pauldrons a little bit of a shine. I would recommend acrylic varnish. Once again, it doesn't really matter. There are different types of varnish out there. Varnish does tend to be expensive though, so then try to get the paint on varnish rather than a spray varnish because it's easier to control. I think that's it. Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't very specific. I hope this was all very helpful. See you next time.